is left pending. Chair lays out House Bill 3187. Recognize Representative Sheehan.
Hello, Mr. Speaker.
Hey, I saw you earlier today, a few hours. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we're hanging
All right,
out
are we
together.
going to limit the time? What, how much? 2 minutes,
2 minutes, and Haley has the time.
not 2. Hold on. No, I think we...
Are you limiting my time or whose time?
Nope,
are you
not your time.
Only your time.
Go ahead, start, you're ready. Your
Did you
time.
lay out a committee sub or?
No, we do not.
Okay, that's fine.
If we were supposed to have, we didn't get it.
Hold on, oh, wait.
Ma-
You're right, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Speaker Craddock, Vice Chair Perez, and members of the committee.
The committee does offer a substitute. I'm sorry, we did have it.
So you do have a committee
Yeah,
substitute?
we're going to lay out, we laid out the substitute. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, sir, for laying
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah.
DART is a Dallas Area Rapid Transit Authority that provides public transit to Dallas and the surrounding area. The Transit Authority has a financial structure that has changed little in over 40 years and is in desperate need of an overhaul. But DART refuses to do so. As a result, DART is now bringing financial harm to many of its member cities. 6 of the member cities are forced to overpay DART for their services. And the imbalance is so extreme, one city is receiving less than 50 cents on the dollar. This is a city that's putting in $100 million every year to DART and receiving less than $45 million in services. They're putting in $100 million, they're getting less than $45 million in services. Because of DART's unwillingness to address these overpayments, I have filed House Bill 3187 that provides a legislative fix to these imbalances DART refuses to fix. Worse yet, DART hid these overpayments for years from their member cities. Requests as far back as 2020 for greater transparency were stonewalled by DART. During the 87th legislative session, I filed House Bill 3867 requiring DART to provide the expenditures by city. As simple as, just give me the expenditures for each of your 13 cities. DART, during session, agreed to provide the information, so I pulled the bill. Well, DART never provided the information. They never provided the report. Instead, they provided some document that highlighted the benefits of transit. So as a result, during the 88th legislative session, another bill was filed, again requiring the disclosure of DART's expenditures by city. This bill stalled once again based on DART's promises to provide transparency. They broke their promise again. They didn't provide the information. Mayors even went to the regional transportation entity and requested an evaluation of regional transit. Finally, in late 2023, DART finally agreed. But they didn't even have the ability to go to their own financial systems to get the information. They had to pay an outside entity over $1 million to provide this information. So I want you to think about that just for a second. If you're in the private sector and you have a CFO that can't produce simple financial information on expenditures per city, and that CFO has to go to an outside entity and pay them $1 million to pull information from your own financial systems, in the private sector, that CFO gets fired. The study showed what the cities knew all along. DART has been overcharging their cities by massive amounts. So here we are again today, and we're here because DART's unwillingness to do what's right. And they haven't been willing over the past 6 years, and they're not going to be willing in the next 2. So House Bill 3187 seeks to address payment imbalances by creating an alternative payment plan. The committee substitute that was laid out makes 2 changes. Section 4 of the original bill is removed, which leaves the ability for DART to collect sales and use tax at 1%. Secondly, the original bill is also amended to ensure there is no impact for current bondholders. So let me just leave you with this. You're going to hear a lot of testimony. There's been lobbyists that have been hired. You're getting tons of emails, all that kind of stuff. And they're telling you this bill is going to be a financial disaster to DART, and it's not. We have restored their 1% sales tax that they can charge everybody, and we've rebalanced the restrictions on their bonds. But I want you to leave you with this. DART, from 2010 to 2020, their revenues increased 54%. Their ridership only increased by 13%, a 40% delta. So just keep that in mind when you have multiple people come forward to you today to talk about the devastation of this bill. It's inaccurate. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have filed this bill if DART would simply sit down with their member cities and treat them like customers, and they're not. So we're in a position now where we have to seek a legislative remedy. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions and reserve my right to close. Yeah.
Before you do, on the last bill, we froze the registration, and I'm doing it again on this bill because it got out of hand. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. If you haven't filed to testify, you have 10 minutes, a little 9. At 25 till, I'm gonna shut off the registration, okay? And we're gonna cut it down to 3 minutes testimony per person. I mean, it doesn't count if you ask questions by the people on the panel, and I'll limit them if they get too long, okay? All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Who wanted?
I'm done.
Mr.
Sir,
Patterson wanted to ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just really quickly, Representative Shaheen, last session you filed the same bill,
Yes, sir.
roughly, correct? And it came before this committee, correct?
That's right.
And the chairman of the committee at the time was Terry Canales,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And Chairman Canales at the time said, much like the last bill that we had, why are we airing out everybody's dirty laundry? Y'all go back and fix this. And that didn't happen, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And so that's why you're here today with this bill, is because that didn't happen. And so here we are again for the third session working on the same issue.
Yes, sir, and Mr. Canales is a joint author.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions?
And Mr. Chairman, members, I apologize, but I'm chairing elections, and we actually have more witnesses than you do. So I normally stay, but I do have to run that committee. But
Well, don't send them back over here.
They're a little bit more brief than yours are, but I promise, sir, I will be back to close.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, members, very much.
I don't think we have any witnesses then.
Okay. Chair calls Will Beetrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and
Yeah.
committee members. My name is Will Beetrell. I serve as the mayor of Town of Highland Park, and I support House Bill 3187. For more than 4 decades, DART's 13 member cities have made significant investments in their regional transit system. Since 2015, DART's total budget, including operating capital and debt service, has increased from $983 million to $1.7 billion, representing a 2-fold increase in 10 years. According to the Ernst & Young study, Highland Park was a net donor to DART by providing $6.3 million in sales tax contributions for a $1.9 million in expense allocation for the fiscal year 2023. That equates to a negative 70% return, negative 70%. A very micro look at the 1/4 penny request for general mobility would net Highland Park $1.7 million, which would be 4% of our budget. That's a significant number for a 100-year infrastructure that we have. Highland Park has no light rail infrastructure within its town boundaries and one bus route that accommodates approximately 60 riders per day at the cost of over $300 per rider. It's important to note that the figure of approximately 60 riders per day is based on estimates. DART's open transit system limits its ability to accurately track ridership. A truly regional transit solution requires a regional funding mechanism, one that does not disproportionately burden a subset of member cities. Perhaps this helps explain why DART has not successfully added a new member city since inception. Contrary to claims made by DART and its advocates, the structural reforms necessary to ensure the agency's viability cannot be achieved through local efforts alone. We have tried. Therefore, just as legislative action was required in 1983 to authorize DART's creation, it's now appropriate for the legislator to consider a new model to enhance DART's accountability, direction, and status quo. In this context, I respectfully request your support for House Bill 3187.
Mr. Beechel, I have a couple of quick questions. Have you all tried to get together and work out locally the problem?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you've gotten nowhere or what?
We've gotten nowhere. DART continues to maintain their current status quo, and we'd already passed that. We already had the bill had already been submitted, so we didn't want to back off what the bill was saying. So we were kind of in a funny gray area at that time.
All right. So, Mr. Patterson, did you say this is the third time's a charm? We'll see what we can do here.
We hope so. Thank you.
All right. Any other other questions? Okay. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Appreciate it. Where are the people that? Which is
Not this one.
Alderman?
Adelman.
Jamie Allman.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jamie Adelman. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at DART, and I oppose HB 3187. In 1983, voters dedicated 1% of their sales tax to DART, which they reaffirmed in 2000 when an overwhelmingly positive vote to accelerate the build-out of the DART system. About 25% of DART sales tax revenue is pledged to bondholders to repay these investments. Our bond counsel believes this bill violates those covenants. The first time they know of that a statute would place a political subdivision in default of its obligations. Municipal agency default is unprecedented. Further, our general counsel has stated that the bill would break DART's contract with the voters who authorized allocating the full penny to the regional transportation system. I urge you to read his full memo in the binder packet that was provided to you earlier this evening. Our voters have approved the penny twice, nearly 2 decades apart. We would absolutely be breaking the contract if we didn't put this reallocation to a vote. Chapter 452 already has a mechanism for funding local transportation projects. Since 1989, DART has given more than $500 million to our cities through various mobility programs. Most recently, a one-time allocation of $234 million available thanks to DART's conservative budgeting during the pandemic. The Ernst & Young study did not take into account that $234 million or any of the other programs that we currently have with our cities. Under the existing statute, however, bondholders remain assured of their investment, and we continue to deliver on our promise to the voters. This bill would jeopardize those promises. As a public agency, DART is deeply familiar with the economic pressures facing our service area cities, including persistent inflation and rising infrastructure costs. DART's well-established and transparent financial practices help us maintain a fiscally conservative budget that keeps pace with those costs and allows us to invest in sustainable regional growth and our city's development goals. Cities' appointed board members drive all financial decisions. A supermajority of the board adopts financial standards annually to ensure every taxpayer dollar works most efficiently for our customers. By policy, DART's administrative costs have been at or below 10% of total operating costs for the last 20 years. Compared to similar agencies nationwide, our administrative costs are among the lowest. In addition to the standards, the board approves DART's budget and a 20-year financial plan each year. Our cities also have 30 days to review the budget, during which time DART meets with the city managers to solicit their feedback and answer questions. Over the past 10 years, there have been just 10 no votes on DART's annual budget. This year's budget actually decreased by 2.1% from last year under the leadership of the Budget Committee, chaired by Plano's board representative. In fact, Plano's representative has chaired the board or the Budget Committee for the last 10 years. Please be under no illusions. Beyond threatening our covenants with bondholders and voters, a 25% cut would devastate the agency.
Okay,
A res-
your time's up, so if you could finish up, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, I've got one statement left. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I respectfully ask the committee to allow us to continue working with our cities and NCT COG on a long-term strategy for regional transit that can grow to meet North Texas's needs.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Nadine Lee?
Good evening, Chair Craddock and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Nadine Lee, and I'm the President and CEO of Dallas Area Rapid Transit. On behalf of DART, and based on our 10-to-1 board-approved legislative agenda, I am testifying in opposition to this bill. Taxpayers have voted on multiple occasions to tax themselves to invest billions of dollars in this critical transit system. This bill proposes to dismantle that contract with the voters. In the last 3 years, DART has invested over $110 million to improve security, cleanliness, and reliability system-wide. We have increased bus, light rail, and microtransit service in all 13 cities. And while we have dramatically improved service quality, we simultaneously reduced our bus fleet size by 20% through a bus network redesign. Because of these significant investments, customer satisfaction has improved by double digits from just 2 years ago, an accomplishment unheard of in the transit industry. We are outpacing national trends in restoring ridership, and weekend ridership already exceeds pre-pandemic levels. Defunding DART by $235 million in year one and 25% in perpetuity will reduce available revenue for transit investments by $7 billion over a 20-year period. In the first year alone, our operating revenues will drop by 34%. A 34% cut in operations would mean devastating cuts for the entire regional transit system at a time when we are on track to achieve the highest ridership in the history of DART in FY26. As someone with more than 30 years of transit experience in cities across the country, I know what happens when you starve a system like DART. Trains will run only every 30 to 60 minutes, making it impossible for employees to get to work, students to get to their classes, or seniors to make doctor's appointments on time. Bus and train repairs will fall behind, and the lack of available fleet will result in more trip cancellations, and delays will increase as infrastructure falls into a state of disrepair. Ridership will plummet as service quality declines, and that will create a downward spiral until the entire system collapses. I understand this bill intends to provide relief to certain cities based on a reported imbalance in spending versus sales tax collections in a single year. This report does not account for the prior 40 years of investments in these cities or projects like the nearly complete $2 billion Silver Line Regional Rail, which, by the way, serves both Plano and Carrollton, two of the cities seeking to defund DART. Even so, the DART board used its existing statutory authority to approve its own funding program to address these issues locally.
Okay, your time's up. If you'll just finish up. I
Okay,
appreciate
I have one more statement.
it. Okay, that's great.
We appreciate the committee's efforts to address mobility issues across the state. I ask you to please let us continue this work at home, where we can involve all cities in developing a regional solution that sets North Texas up for success. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Mr. Patterson has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The numbers that you referenced in your layout, was that related to the bill or the committee sub? The bill as filed or the amended version that Representative Shaheen laid out?
So I am unfamiliar with the committee sub. I've only just heard this proposal today, so I
Okay.
can't speak to the committee sub. I'm referring to the original bill.
Okay, thank you. And then Representative Shaheen's comments, I didn't ask this CFO. I was hoping that you would address it in your comments, but I mean, there is a long story about this bill before this committee, or at least being filed in the Texas House. Do you have anything to say for your organization on behalf of that?
Yes, absolutely. I understand that Representative Shaheen said that we did not produce the information that was requested. We did on 3 different occasions produce that information, 3 different ways. The first time, we based our cost allocation that was requested on statutory requirements, following the language of the existing statute and how we would actually distribute the costs.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
So
he asked for the break, and what year was this? Because he asked for
So
the
this was
breakdown per
September of
city.
2021. We provided a document to the city of Plano that talked about the cost allocation for their city, the
Okay.
cost of the services. We followed the statutory language that talks about what the costs or what the investments should be based on a withdrawal election, because that's the language that we had to work from. We thought that if we did not use the statutory language, that we would call into question why we were developing a different methodology. The second time we did it, we worked. This was during the last legislative session. We provided a document to both the state legislature as well as the cities. That was actually a methodology for allocating enterprise level costs. We had all of our city managers from our 13 service area cities participate in the development of that methodology. And I will note for the record that Plano was the only city that disagreed with that methodology. And so we were asked yet again to try to do another cost allocation. At that point, we talked to the city managers, particularly the city manager in Plano, who suggested that we hire an outside consultant and do an independent study, which we did. Representative Shaheen referenced the $1.5 million that we spent doing that study, not because we didn't have the data. And in fact, our CFO, our financial team, provided all the data, but because we were not allowed to participate in the development of the methodology because it was an explicit direction that the DART staff was not allowed to participate in developing the methodology. All we could do was provide data, kind of a one-way communication.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Speaker?
Mr. Little?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Just a general question. Do you think that DART needs to be a good financial deal for all of DART's constituent cities?
So, yes. What I will say to that is that in any given year, because a lot of times right now, for example, we're building the Silver Line, which is a big mega project, $2 billion worth of investment. So the investment is actually concentrated in the northern suburbs of our service area. Right now, if you're a Glen Heights or a City of Dallas, you're not getting the same level of investment that you might get if we were not building something. So as we were building out our light rail system and the commuter rail, which is what Silver Line is, we are making bigger investments in certain parts of our service area than others at any given time. And it just depends on what we have on the docket at the time.
Well, do you think that the constituent cities of DART should have an opportunity to revisit the arrangement if they no longer think it is of the same degree of benefit to those cities that it was previously? Or are they just stuck with it forever?
So I think that's a better question for the voters, because we have a contract with the voters who voted in both 1983 and 2000 to make these investments. The voters voted to tax themselves to build out this transit system, and right now there is nothing in the current bill language that suggests that we ask the voters their opinion.
Well, it's not a contract. You asked the voters something at one fixed point in time, and when was that exactly?
In 1983, when DART was formed, in 2000, when the voters allowed us to bond against our 1% in order to accelerate the delivery of these capital projects.
So 41 years ago?
2000,
No, I'm sorry.
so 25 years ago.
No, you said it was the voters voted in 1983.
In 1983, when DART was formed, in 2000, when the voters agreed to allow us to use the penny, of our sales tax to bond against, to raise money so that we could actually build our system out faster.
Your chief financial officer testified that she wanted us to allow DART to continue carry out its long-term strategy. Did I hear that correct?
I believe she said something to that effect.
Okay. How long-term a strategy is it?
Well, the way DART plans all of our investments is over a 20-year period in our 20-year financial plan. And so we program out over a 20-year period what we think our revenues are going to be in 20 years, and also how much money we think we're going to be spending in any given year over that 20-year period. Currently, we have a strategic plan that lays out the priorities for our investments. We also have a capital improvement program, which is a 5-year look ahead at how our capital money will be spent. We also know that over a 20-year period, we have projections on how we might want to invest in the recapitalization and rehabilitation of our infrastructure. We have a program right now which is all about our system modernization, trying to maintain our assets to more than just a state of good repair, to make sure that they're operating well into the future. And so it is incredibly important for us to be able to deliver on that capital program.
The suggestion earlier in the testimony was that perhaps some of the constituent cities are viewing a year's cost-benefit analysis in isolation. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
I think
When in the 20-year plan going forward, does DART estimate that this will be a good financial arrangement for Plano and Carrollton?
so. I think that is a difficult question to answer because at any given time we are spending great amounts of money. Like right now, we're spending a lot of money in Carrollton, a lot of money in Plano, and the EY study that was used as the basis for this bill, again, is a snapshot in time, doesn't actually account for the Silver Line that's currently under construction.
What's
the
the
methodology doesn't account for that.
What's the EY study you're referencing?
I'm sorry. So the cost allocation study that Representative Shaheen referenced, which cost us more than $1 million, that is the EY study.
And what was the outcome of the study, if you can just estimate it for the members of the panel?
So the
Summarize it.
The outcome of the study was looking at cost allocation of our expenses in fiscal year 2023 compared to the sales tax collections in each city in the fiscal year 2023, and every city's allocation compared to their sales tax collections was a little bit different, obviously, because there are big cities, there are small cities, and so there is a report. I don't remember if we included the report in your packet, but we can certainly provide it for you.
Were there winners and losers under the study?
So we call them donor and donee cities. So there are some cities whose cost allocations are higher than the sales tax collections within their city, and then there are other cities that are the opposite.
And just explain to the members of the committee, who are the donor cities and who are the donee cities?
So I'm going to try to remember all the donor cities. So Plano, Richardson, Addison, Farmers Branch, Highland Park, University Park, and Carrollton.
And who are the donee cities?
It is, now you're going to test me because I'm going to make sure I don't skip any.
I haven't seen the study, so I just want to make sure everybody knows.
You have seen the study?
No, ma'am, I
You have
haven't.
not, okay. So Dallas, Glen Heights, Cockrell Hill, Rowlett, Garland, and I'm missing one now, but I'm drawing a blank on which one Irving.
Okay, thank you.
Any-
Thank you.
Rich Aneski.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Good evening.
My name is Rich Andreski. I'm President and CEO of Trinity Metro in Fort Worth, and I'm here to speak in opposition to HB 3187. You might be wondering why Fort Worth is here and why Trinity Metro is here, and I'll start by saying that we have a joint venture relationship with DART to provide rail service between downtown Dallas and downtown Fort Worth. That service has been running for nearly 30 years and moves millions of people, actually 50 million people in its existence. It's a significant part of our North Texas network. As we think about the future in North Texas and the growth in Fort Worth, I'm not here to wade into the discussion about the merits of the bill as it applies to the communities to the east, but I do want to bring to the committee's attention the perhaps unintended consequences of this bill and the effects it would have to Tarrant County and Fort Worth. So I'll start with, if I could paint the picture very briefly. I'm a daily rail commuter. I come in through the rail system into downtown Fort Worth every morning, and I witness all the time the people who are using these services. We have nurses headed to Parkland, students going to UNT Dallas, downtown Dallas employees commuting to work. These are not leisure trips, and TRE, Trinity Railway Express, is how they're getting back and forth. It's how the Tarrant County economy shows up in Dallas. And it's how Dallas's economy shows up in Fort Worth. But it's not just about the 9-to-5 grind. TRE also connects us culturally across cities and county lines. We have game trains on nights that take Mavericks and Stars fans into downtown Dallas at the American Airlines Center. And of course, the reverse is true as folks come from the Dallas area to take part in events in Fort Worth, such as when Paul McCartney played his only Texas show at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. But it's really not just about these small ideas, it's about the big international event that's coming in the World Cup. Frankly, it's a chance for Texas to shine and show what we do best. And the potential loss of funding poses a grave risk to this service and our ability to move people easily and freely around the region during that time. So to sum up, TRE is no longer a commuter line. It's a symbol of what regional cooperation can achieve. The DART bill matters because it strengthens or weakens that cooperation. And we can't afford to weaken it, not when the world is literally watching. So I would close by saying, let's invest in infrastructure that unites us and amplifies our strengths and keeps our metroplex growing. Thank you.
Does this legislation, is this going to impact you that much, do you think, one way or the other?
We
Just-
are currently in a different subchapter. We have two concerns potentially as it would affect us. One is that this bill, we're not clear whether at some near point in the future when we reach the population threshold of the DART chapter, whether these bill provisions would apply to us. So that's a concern. We also have a concern in terms of our ability to raise revenue. We're a half-penny member currently. We're doing a lot with that half-penny sales tax. But as we look at the growth and the growth happening to the west, we do have some concerns about the long-term sustainability of our program.
Okay, can you tell me about your numbers? What were they 2 years ago and last year?
So are you, Mr. Chairman, are you asking about the Trinity Metro total ridership, or are you asking about the Trinity Railway Express line to Dallas?
That one, yeah.
The Dallas? Yes. So last year, we moved 1.272 million people on the TRE line. And the service has rebounded since COVID, but we're still below the pre-COVID peak.
And what about the other part?
The rest of the system?
Yeah,
We're seeing tremendous growth in the Fort Worth system. So in the Trinity Metro network, we're growing at 15 to 20% compounded annually over the last 4 years.
okay,
Last year, we carried 7.8 million people. Yeah.
great. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Charles Cato.
Cato? Charles Cato?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Charlie Cato. and I'm the Chief of Police for Dart. I'm here to speak in opposition to House Bill 3187. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your steadfast support for law enforcement across our state. I've been a Texas peace officer since 1988, serving as the Chief of Police for the City of Mesquite and as the first Assistant Chief of Police for the City of Dallas in my career. Under the leadership of our CEO, Nadine Lee, DART has been transforming how public safety is delivered across our 13-city region. We're aggressively recruiting police and fair enforcement officers. We have added 100 transit security officers to enhance security on light rail vehicles and platforms. We're not just adding officers, we're also policing smarter, leveraging real-time intelligence, enhanced camera technology, and data-driven proactive patrol models to protect both our passengers and employees. Our community-oriented policing strategy embeds officers at key transit hubs, builds relationships with riders, and increases visibility where it matters most. We partner with dozens of law enforcement agencies across the region, enhancing our collective efforts to keep the public safe. We also recognize we cannot arrest our way out of every situation or problem. That is why we created dedicated homeless engagement teams to partner daily with outreach providers to connect people experiencing homelessness to services. This is public safety that works upstream. These efforts and more are driving real results. This year, we've reduced crime across DART properties by 16% compared to the same time last year, the second quarter of 2024. I'm proud that with this work and the work done across our agency, our customer satisfaction has risen from 58% to 72% in 2 years. All this progress is now at risk under House Bill 3187. 25% cut to DART sales tax revenue will mean fewer officers, will mean fewer patrols, and fewer resources to keep riders safe. Transit security is essential to rider confidence and to the economic engine that DART powers every day. We're not standing still, we're innovating, but we need the resources to continue that momentum. I respectfully urge you to oppose House Bill 3187 and to protect the safety of the communities we serve. Thank you again for your support.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much for you coming this evening. Elliot Gazy.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. So I'm Ellie, I'm a student at UT Dallas, and I'm testifying on behalf of myself. I was not paid, and frankly, I found that aspersion kind of offensive earlier. And I'd like to, I'm not going to mince words here.
Whoa. So can you tell us whether you're for or against?
Yes, I am strongly opposed to this.
Okay.
So here's the deal. This didn't start at the state legislature as they laid out. This started at Plano City Council, and Plano City Council had this study, but the problem is the study doesn't say what they want it to say. It doesn't actually make sense, because what they did is basically they calculated the amount of money that was spent providing services within each city, but that isn't an accurate representation of the value of transit to each city, because Plano's sort of at the end of the transit line. So there's plenty of services that go from Plano to Dallas, and the value of those services to Plano is that they bring people to Dallas. Most of that track is in Dallas, but it's still serving Plano residents. The money's not being spent in Plano, but that doesn't mean it's not of value to Plano. The whole point of the network is the network effect, and DART provides Plano residents convenient, fast, cheap, and traffic-free access to downtown Dallas, to the medical district, and to the airport. DART is also investing in Plano, as mentioned before, of the Silver Line, which, again, was not considered by this report. So the idea that DART doesn't care about Plano is just not true. It's just not true. And finally, transit, the whole point of this 1 cent is that it's an economic development 1 cent, which means it's not meant as like a piggy bank. You don't need to get the same amount of money out as you get in. And other uses of the 1 cent that Plano has compared to are like cities like Prosper, for example, using it for luring other corporations to the city. And that also just wouldn't be being spent in the city. It would be a tax break. That's not money being spent on the residents of the city. So If Plano wants to improve the economic development that could be brought to the city, they should work with DART. And cities like Richardson and Dallas have been very effective in doing this. They've built projects such as City Line in Richardson and Mockingbird Station in Dallas. And both of those have been very productive for the cities, very much increasing their tax revenue. And Plano has the same opportunity to do this at their stations. They just choose not to. That's not any other city's fault. And the other city shouldn't be punished because of Plano's decisions to not fully utilize the system. And I will be happy to take any questions on this. But
Are there any questions? No? Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Steve Babick?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Steve Babick. I'm the mayor in Carrollton. I am speaking in support of this bill. I have a few caveats that I would offer up for consideration, but otherwise I am in full support of the bill. First off, Carrollton is the geographic center of the Metroplex. We are one of the few cities in the Metroplex that's actually served by 2 transit agencies. We have DCTA to the north. We have Dallas, or the DART system to the south. We represent, as the geographic center, we have more railroad crossings in Carrollton than cities east of the, or west rather, of the Mississippi. I will tell you that from a fiduciary duty perspective, Carrollton takes that very seriously. Carrollton has strong fiscal management practices. We've reduced our tax rate for 11 straight years. We're AAA rated. And I can go, many of those are in your write-up. I'm not going to spend my time on that. But one of the areas that we actually have invested in heavily is our transit-oriented development. We have 3 DART stations, our Beltline, which is our historic square. We have Trinity Mill Station, which is a $1 billion development that's coming out of the ground as we speak, and DART is a partner on that. And we have our Frankfurt Station. The DCTA line connects with DART at the Trinity Mill Station, will ultimately connect down at the historic downtown as well. We have tried to meet with DART representatives either through RTC or directly on many occasions over the last year. And I would probably be a little bit more complimentary of their efforts. I think that where we stand today is that we actually have made some progress. But I think one of the things that came up loud and clear during those discussions is the question was raised, would you be here at our table if it wasn't for the legislation? And the answer was no, from DART. That was the answer, okay? So the legislation has forced people to the table. The challenge that we have now is DART has passed a board resolution as of March 26th. Unilaterally, they got some input from us, and they heard some of our inputs, but there is still a large gap. So that's why we are here today. But also, what came out of the partnership discussions through RTC and directly is that it's going to require all this to be codified. I do want to point out a few things though in the report I sent you. First off, the EY report, it's Exhibit 1. It clearly shows that Carrollton is subsidizing by 28%. We have a $11 million premium that we're paying year after year at this point. The suburbs are $67 million in terms of those resolution cities that she mentioned. There's been no new city joined since 1983. By the way, in 2000, the population was 5 million people. We're now at 8, and we're on our way to 15. I will tell you that as you look at that, Carrollton's tax that we paid in has grown 115% since the silver line the green line was introduced into Carrollton, and 25% just since pre-COVID levels. We're down 38% or 30% rather on ridership at this stage. Those are disturbing numbers. While our 115% tax contribution to DART has, since the silver line or the green line started, or 25% over the last 2 years, while we've contributed that excess sales tax, that's a 10% growth rate. We are held to 3.5% as a government entity. So I'll answer any questions from this point forward.
Right. Okay. So Mr.
Mayor Babick, thanks for being here.
You bet.
Appreciate hearing from you. It's always good to see you.
You as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kylan Alley.
Paula Blackman.
You can't hear me back there? Kylan, I think that's how you pronounce it, Alley.
Paula Blackman.
What?
Paula Blackman.
Paula Blackman.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good evening, Chairman Craddock and honorable members of Transportation Committee. I am Paula Blackman, here in my personal capacity, but I also serve on the Dallas City Council that represents the Mockingbird Station area. I am hereby today expressing my strong opposition to House Bill 3187 and stand in support of DART, a critical partner in advancing mobility, economic opportunity, and growth in North Texas. HB 3187 undermines local governance and the will of the voters who have long supported DART through sales tax contributions. Decisions about public transportation funding and service should remain at the hands of the local government and the voters. DART's governance structure is a representative of the cities that fund and rely on the system. And Dallas has reiterated our support for this agency multiple times. DART serves 13 cities, as mentioned, and moves over 60 million passengers annually. It's regional lifeline, and DART is also the anchor of our region. Not only cities, it's not the only city that needs its services. The agency is a vital economic engine supporting job access, education, healthcare access, and working family, students, and seniors. But most importantly, DART contributes to the economic development of our region. In North Texas, we add 418 residents every single day, and this growth is showing no signs of slowing. With nearly every major industry represented in the Dallas region, the Texas miracle is alive and well back home. And we are frequently the center of the world stage when it comes to the sports, to hosting worldwide events, and we are excited to show our hospitality when we welcome FIFA in 2026 with 9 World Cup matches, the most in any city. Even with major investments in transportation infrastructure, we cannot build enough roads or expand enough highways to prepare or accommodate the exponential population growth that is underway. Mass transit is an economic imperative to the Dallas region, and it is a key component to the daily connectivity to our region. With recent investments like the Silver Line project that's been mentioned, DART is connecting our region's most populous suburbs, rich with corporate headquarters and residential neighborhoods alike, with the DFW airport that's our 3rd busiest in the world and generates $38 billion of economic output in the Dallas region alone. While things are certainly not perfect, DART has come to the table to address concerns via a 5% funding resolution that gives money back to member cities who claim they need it most. There's always room for improvement, but HB 3187 is not the answer. It's a blunt instrument that jeopardizes decades of progress. I respectfully urge this committee to oppose HB 3187 and allow collaborative work to continue back home. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You misspelled the word city in your registration. Would you like us to correct that?
Please. I went to Tech too, so yeah, please do so.
I'll
I had to do it.
I'll tell them that when I see them.
Yes, you get fat fingers going, and then
Right.
you get fat. You have to be
Are
fast.
is there any questions? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Joe Corcoran. Bless you.
All right. Good evening, esteemed members of the State House Transportation Committee. My name is Joe Corcoran, and I've been a city councilman in Richardson for 4 years. I am here on behalf of the entire Richardson City Council. We are against HB 3187. Richardson has invested heavily in DART over the past few decades. DART has 4 stations located, and it's been quite profitable to us. We have always had a good working relationship with DART, but especially so since Nadine Lee became their CEO and our former mayor, Gary Slagle, became the chairman of their board of directors. We find their plans to increase ridership and improve safety and cleanliness to be satisfactory, and we're pleased with the progress they're making. The idea that we would set that progress back by implementing a 25% reduction in the sales tax contribution is very upsetting, given that so many of our past investments and future plans were made with the understanding that we'd have a well-funded DART system. Put simply, this bill hurts Richardson. Back in October, Plano invited member cities to a last-minute meeting at one of their libraries. At that meeting, they gave us 1 month to come to an agreement and said if we didn't, they would be forced to take this matter to the state legislature. Giving 13 member cities 1 month to come to an agreement is not a good faith proposition. It seems to me that Plano has always intended to take this to y'all and never intended to work out an agreement. If Plano wants to pull out of DART, fine, put it to the voters and see what happens. The voters in all member cities overwhelmingly supported DART the last time a vote was taken. Plano has always been a phenomenal friend to Richardson, but on this issue, we are diametrically opposed. However, this is a local disagreement that can be settled amongst friends. We are encouraged by DART's recent proposal to review and revise the EY study allocation methodology, as well as their commitment to restructuring board representation and redirect the equivalent of 5% of their sales tax revenue to a general mobility program. So I ask that you vote this resolution down, respect the wishes of the voters, and give us time to negotiate this matter locally with each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think the legislature's tried to give it to you locally for after 2 or 3 sessions. So I think the pressure is pretty high that the legislature to do something this time.
I can appreciate that.
Okay.
Sure.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Brad Lamorsi. I don't know if I got that, if I did.
Pretty
very well.
close. Brad Lamorgis.
Well, close one's counting everything but horseshoes.
Well, I've been called worse, Mr. Chair, so. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I am Brad Lamorgis. I am testifying in favor of this bill. I am on the city council for the city of Irving, also a member of the Regional Transportation Council. Our mayor has sent you a letter. He was dealing with a family emergency, so he probably says it a lot better than I can, but I'll get into it. Irving has been a member of the DART system since inception. I think passing this model today in this legislature would be very difficult. You may hear that there's a cap. There's no cap on our revenues that we've continued to contribute. In 2013, since 2013, we're at about 60% of the ridership in the city of Irving, but we've doubled our contribution to DART. And also, despite hearing the fact that we're a donee city, it sure doesn't feel like it to us. I think we're counted under that study because we have a part of the TRE, which is another rail line between Dallas and Fort Worth. There's only 2 DART cities in that. I also did note after we passed a resolution, the initial numbers that we got higher as to what supposedly Irving receives from DART. I am a fan of transit. Our council has been unanimous. Our residents want transit. They're not getting it. The stops to the doctor, the seniors who need it, the people who are in the most need of transit are not getting it in our city. So much so that we would like a percentage of our contribution back to contribute 6 or 7 million towards a micro transit across town. Would serve our residents better, would serve them in a timely manner. Our surveys we conducted for DART, it's our absolute worst rated service by far. Our residents are frustrated. My fellow council member Kyle Taylor, who's head of our local food pantry, receives DART passes. He says he can't give them away because people who need the service will not use it. It's not working in Irving. We have more people who work in Las Colinas during the day than downtown Dallas, and we just don't see the level of service. We think we can spend that money better on transit. We think we can be more efficient with it, hence the reasoning for this bill. This is roughly what our police and fire together. It's a quarter of our budget, our most expensive service that we just don't see the impact from. And so we would ask, and again, the governance, there's separate bills filed on that, but you have 8 governing board members from the city of Dallas, 7 from the other cities. And that's been a big issue. And you're not going to get any movement. We've not had movement. And our mayor, who's been a DART board member for many years, has tried. So in conclusion, while DART has been a longstanding part of our transportation infrastructure, there are issues that need to be addressed. The current system does not adequately serve our residents, and the financial burden on our city is substantial at $108 million. That's a lot of money, and we just don't see that level of service. I urge the committee to consider these alternate solutions that could better meet the needs of Irving residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Just wanted to say it's good to see you, Brad. You're going to be late to court for sure tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
John Martinez. I thought he already said, oh, that was on the last.
We're
You're
almost
back.
going home.
You're
John
back.
Martinez with the Regional Hispanic Contractors Association. We're a statewide organization. That's why I was here for Houston and Dallas. I've been a resident of Highland Park, University Park, and now I'm in the southern sector of Dallas. This is important because, not because I ride the DART bus, but because sometimes it's a service that I do need and that our workers need. And sometimes that's what we need to think about. On behalf of the Regional Hispanic Contractors Association, I'd like to express our strong opposition to House Bill 3187. This legislation seriously threatens the progress made in regional public transportation, economic development, and equity and access to opportunities across North Texas. It conflicts with the RHCA strategic plan, emphasizing advocacy, equitable access, and sustainable development for Texas, small businesses, owners, and directly contradicts the objectives that we, RHCA, lives by, disproportionately harming workers and communities that rely on affordable, accessible public transportation, reducing mobility options that connect our members to training, job sites, and project opportunities. As you well know, where Texas is suffering from workforce issues and that training. Weakening the infrastructure backbone that supports construction and small business development across the region. It's not good for any of us. A united infrastructure that we need now, but also for the near future. The population is growing. We need the infrastructure. Right now, it's not where we want it to be, but it's getting there. You heard the opposition say today that we're making progress. And I would tell you, I have been Nadine Lee's harshest critic on some areas, and she told me to give her time. I gave her time. If you see the surveys of saying to the people that are writing, everything is moving in the right direction. Even one of the speakers who was here in opposition said, it is making progress. I will end with saying this. I am not one of those daily riders. But when my wife was sick and couldn't pick me up to the airport, I was so glad that in the middle of the night, I was able to get off the plane and get on a DART bus, train, and then on a DART bus to get to my house, and then my wife didn't have to leave the house. I was happy that when my son couldn't get his driver's license, he was still able to go to school because he was able to ride the DART bus. Those are the things that we have. It's like a seatbelt. I don't use the seatbelt for a car wreck every day, but I'm damn sure glad that it's there in case when I do need it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
You registered against the bill, that's correct?
Yes, in opposition.
Right, right. Is there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Martinez, I just want to thank you for your comments because I don't think any of us here in the legislature have to rely on the bus to get anywhere. And I'm just glad that you're speaking on behalf of those people who do and your experience with the bus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, anyone else? Thank you very much for coming. Is it Munns? John Munns?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name's John Munns, and I'm the mayor of Plano, and I am for this bill, 3187. My city has a 60% subsidy based on the Ernst & Young study. Plano is the second largest contributor to DART behind Dallas. In 2023 alone, Plano contributed $109 million to DART, and our taxpayers received less than 50 cents on the dollar of that investment. This is an inefficient, indefensible use of the tax dollars that my taxpayers committed to benefit transit in our city. The General Mobility Program is not a new concept. As we heard a little earlier, Houston Metro implemented a 25% general mobility program years ago, which is what we're talking about in this bill. The city can use those funds to better respond to our citizens' needs. So the DART system has empty buses, empty transit stations, and little demand for service in our community. In the eyes of our city, there is a lack of accountability and, at worst, prime example of government waste. DART's marketing department has 78 full-time employees and still cannot entice people to use their system. DART revenue has increased by $300 million since 2019, and yet ridership is still low. DART is projected to have more than $4 billion in debt by the end of this year. The bill seeks to put limits on future debt issuances. The committee substitute, however, does not impact current bondholders. Do you know how many cities have joined DART since 1983? 0. And do you know how many cities want to join DART today? 0. Rather than seeking solutions, DART has consistently focused on one strategy, and that's delay. It took us more than 4 years and 2 legislative sessions, now 3, to finally compel them to produce that value study. Plano's committed to transit, but transportation solutions need to be fiscally responsible and accountable to the needs of the taxpayers. We tried to work this out at home, and however, rather than a solution-focused partner, we're dealing with a runaway agency. There's been a complete breakdown in trust in this agency. The bottom line is, it is in DART's interest to maintain our inequity and continue their budget philosophy of spending every dollar. Structural change to this outdated, inefficient, 42-year-old model cannot wait any longer. We need your help. Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
How long's the length of your contract? Or how long are you?
We, I think the contract on 20, there's no contract, but on what?
Wait, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't discuss with.
How long is our contract?
Well, or how long are you in?
We can, I think in 26, we have the ability to withdraw.
Okay, so you're not far away.
We're not, but that's not our intent.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Speaker.
Oh, sure. Mr.
Thank you,
Little.
Speaker Craddock. Mayor Munns, you said that withdrawing isn't your intent, and that what it sounds like to me is that Plano doesn't wish to completely withdraw from DART. It just wants to right-size it. I mean, am I putting words in your mouth, or is that correct?
No, I've actually said that many times, is we really want to right-size a 42-year-old model that really hasn't changed in those 42 years. So that's exactly correct.
Okay. So we've heard some testimony that there have been attempts to address this issue in previous legislatures. Give us a sense of what the discussions with DART have been when you're not here in legislative session. Are there negotiations that are ongoing to reduce Plano's commitment, or is it just nothing? How does
Well, I mean, because of the value study that Ernst & Young provided, and it showed the inequity of $65 million as donating to DART and $45 million of value to the city of Plano. We asked for a sit down at that point, and we really didn't hear from them for months. And then they really kind of questioned the value of the study and the validity of the study. And so we have had meetings over the last year about how can we improve that. And one of the things that they have come up with is really just a very temporary fix of rebating some money back to us, but then that would end in a short period. And what we're looking for is something that would be more structured over the long term in statute that we could rely on.
It seems like some of what we're hearing today are nice platitudes about how there's a long-term strategy and that they want to work with you, they want to communicate with you to resolve the problem locally, but it doesn't seem like that has really resulted in much fruit. Am I mistaken about that?
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned that, well, let's just call it what it is. Plano wants to keep more of its sales tax money than it's able to right now, right?
Right, correct.
And what are you going to do with that if you're allowed to do it?
Well, Plano is the ninth largest city in Texas, and we've been around though for probably, 150 years, but for the last 45 years, that's when the growth occurred. And we're committed to infrastructure, and that infrastructure is a priority of ours, and we want to take care of our city for the next 40 or 50 years. So those type of mobility projects are important to us, and we want to continue to do those.
And Plano has students that go to UTD and other places
We're
like
right
that,
on the border, yeah.
Right. And you want them to be able to go to UTD and use public transit to do that, right?
UTD does. They utilize the DART buses probably more than anyone. Yeah.
Sounds
But
like
it's not the same in our community in Plano.
sounds like you just want this to be fair. Is
Right.
that
That's exactly correct.
okay? Thank you.
Is there any other question? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What do we think? No. The next one is Omar, is it Navarez? We should have asked you.
Good late evening. I changed my words on my speech. Chairman Craddock, Vice Chair Perez, and the members of the committee. My name is Omar Narvaez, and I am a Dallas City Council member representing District 6, and I'm also the Chair of Transportation for the City of Dallas for the last 4 years. In accordance to our city's legislative program, which was approved, speaking in opposition to the bill, which was
Okay.
I was about to say, which was voted unanimously by our city council, all 15 members. I'm here to testify in opposition of House Bill 3187 on behalf of myself and the Dallas City Council. This bill is the state solution to a local problem. It would undermine the work being done back home to reach an agreement that works for all member cities. As written, HB 3187 will negatively affect DART's financial stability by decreasing the sales and use tax revenue it uses to provide services. A question was recently posed in the Dallas Morning News article by James Armstrong, a pastor in my district. Is the sum of DART greater than its parts? I believe it is. DART is a significant driver of economic development across our region, provides over 50 million rides a year, has invested in new rail lines throughout the entire region. And further, ridership is now back to its levels before the pandemic. And this is an economic impact upon its opening at the end of this coming year. When cities joined DART, they did so knowing they may not be one-to-one returns. The voters approved it anyway in 13 cities. The creation of the mandatory general mobility program, as outlined in HB 3187, would result in DART receiving significantly less funding from its member cities, which could be devastating for the agency and for transportation in this region. And on an economic development scale, especially when the world is watching the city of Dallas with the FIFA World Cup next year, where we are going to host 9 matches, the most of any city in the entire World Cup. But this has economic, it could really hurt us economically throughout the entire region, all of DFW, not just Dallas, because the matches aren't being played in Dallas. They're being played in Arlington and across the rest of it, the rest of our region. I just want to wrap up by saying that the mayors of Plano, Dallas, and Fort Worth sent a letter to the Regional Transportation Council, which I'm also a member of. And they are the ones who requested, those 3 mayors, they requested for a study to be done on all of transit. And that's called Transit 2.0. It's almost complete. It will be completed in the next 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks. And it has in it the plan on how to do exactly what our member cities that are disgruntled want to be done, and Dallas is ready. We are ready for these changes because we all have the same common energy about this. So I will stop there, and if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Narvaez? Thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
here. The chair calls Gary Slagle. Mr. Slagle, please state your name, who you represent, and whether you're on for or against the bill.
Thank you very much. My name is Gary Slagle, and I am chairman of the board of DART. That's the organization we've been talking about today. And I am opposed to this legislation against House Bill 3187. And let me just say, it's interesting that, you know, not only am I the chairman of the board of DART now, and I represent 4 of the cities that are a part of DART, I also was former mayor of Richardson for 18 years. And during that time, we opened DART, and we have built we've built a transit-oriented development strategy around the city based on DART. So we've been quite dependent on DART for many, many years. So now I'm on the DART side of this, and what does all that mean? I was here 2 years ago in the last session, and what we were asked to do is to come up with a measurement around which we could tell the cities how much money they're putting into DART and what are they getting out of it. We did that, and we promised we would do it, and we did it, and it was not acceptable. So we contracted with Ernst & Young, and we paid for that Ernst & Young study, but we asked them to work with the cities to come up with the formula, which is what they did. And what was left out of that was any benefit from our economic development work in terms of property tax base increases to the cities. That was not there. The silver line was not there. It was one snapshot in time for 2023. Now, things are going to change for Plano, for Carrollton, for Farmers, you know, for Richardson, for Addison, all the cities along the north part of this service will end up being impacted in a positive way by this silver line. Having said that, though, we've heard a lot about, we haven't been out and talked to anyone. The truth of it is, we had that first meeting in October, which was described by one of our council members. And since October, myself, Nadine Lee, and one of our other board members, Mark Enoch, the 3 of us went to each of the cities within DART 3 times over that period to understand what issues needed to be addressed, We had just completed a strategic plan. We wanted to bring that to light and make sure everybody understood that. So what we did is we've come up with several things. We learned about services that cities would like, more microservices and connector services. We also voted on a supermajority to allow the cities, or to allow the members rather, or DART, to require that we had a supermajority to add service or reduce service so that one city, one major city could not decide on what we look like. And then the final item is we did create a $43 million mobility program for the 7 cities that were considered donors. And that gives Plano exactly the number of dollars they would get out of this 25% bill. We've done all those things. Those are before us. They've just not wanted to do anything with that. And it's a long-term plan. It's not just a short plan. So I would like to thank you and ask if you have any questions. I would like to make one comment because Speaker Craddock was not here, but I wanted to tell you that Bill Keffler and I are looking for your help because we've been working on this for a long time in our city, so thank you.
He worked my first campaign when I ran for the
I know
legislature.
he did, and he's a great man. He
Yeah.
sent me a message a minute ago saying, how are you doing with the speaker? And I said, well, we don't know yet. So, anyway, I'll take any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Gary, tell him hi from me.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Wingett? Wingett?
You got it right the second time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and committee members. My name is Jeff Wingett, and I serve as Mayor Pro Tem and Acting Mayor in the City of Rowlett. And I'm testifying on behalf of the City of Rowlett. We are opposed to HB 3187. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you this evening. I'm here to express our opposition that is shared by the entire Rowlett City Council, who represent our almost 70,000 residents. DART has been a cornerstone of regional infrastructure in North Texas, providing essential train, bus, and shuttle services that connect Rowlett to multiple other cities, including Dallas, Irving, and Fort Worth, over 50 miles away. This connectivity is not merely a convenience. It is a lifeline for many of our residents who rely on DART daily to commute, access to essential services, and for their overall quality of life. In fact, like many of our residents, DART is one of the key reasons that my family and I decided to call Rowlett home. As you know, HB 3187 proposes to reduce DART's voter-approved sales tax revenues by 25%, a move that would have devastating impacts on the DART service area, quality, and consequently on Rowlett. However, this is a proposal that Rowlett previously considered. In fact, our City Council passed a resolution to that effect, which might be why some of the materials that have been circulated by those who support this bill include Rowlett as a supporter as well. But I stand before you today to set the record straight and to paint Rowlett as an example that other municipalities who support this legislation can emulate. That's because after several in-depth conversations with DART's leadership, and specifically our board representative and CEO Nadine Lee, we were able to work together to identify, discuss, and solve many of the concerns that Rowlett shared that demonstrated a good faith effort by DART and Rowlett leadership to find solutions. This is an effort I've seen DART put forth with each member city. Without going into detail on the specifics of the overall system enhancements, it's safe to say that DART was already hard at work to enhance the rider experience throughout the light rail system, one of Rowlett's key areas of focus, by focusing on cleanliness, providing a safe and secure transit environment, and supporting the economic opportunities taking place in Rowlett's downtown that all riders can enjoy, including those who are outside of Rowlett. I would propose that if cities could clearly articulate their frustrations with DART other than it being a cause of a budget deficit, DART is ready and willing to work on solutions that allow it to remain a provider of critical services in the region, as well as providing all the tertiary benefits that all North Texas residents enjoy, such as lower traffic volume, reduced infrastructure costs, and an enhanced opportunity for economic development in our communities. This is the route that Rowlett chose to take, and the end result was a new resolution by our City Council, rescinding the prior one and expressing a posture of full support for DART, including the full funding by its member cities. I also expressed this in a letter to Chairman Craddock dated April 9th, 2025. In closing, while the idea of returning funds to cities might seem appealing, the long-term consequences for our North Texas transit system are dire. I even go so far to say that this would be the beginning of the end for the DART system. Committee members, I urge you to consider the broader implications of HB 3187 and to recognize the impact that it would have on the social fabric of our region. Let's make it so that future Rowlett residents like I was in 2014 won't have to think twice about calling Rowlett home. Thank you. And I'm available for questions, of course.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Daniel, is it Jahal?
It's Daniel Yahalom, but don't worry, I've gotten way, way worse.
I'm glad to, I'm kind of in the middle or maybe or something. Go ahead. Tell us your name and who you represent.
course.
And whether you're for, against, or neutral.
Yes, of course. My name is Daniel Yahalom. I'm here to oppose this legislation, and I'm here to represent myself. I was a Dallas resident for many, many years, or Dallas area resident for many years before I moved here for law school. And as a law student, we're constantly taught to view disputes like this from both sides. And so I was trying to get into the perspective of Plano et al. And try to understand them and their argument that they're just not getting what they're paying for out of this bill. And you know what? I kind of get it. Let's look at Plano, for example. In 2021, I think it was, decades ahead of schedule, they revised their comprehensive plan and to move from a much more transit-oriented approach to a much more car-centric one. And that is within their right. And it's fair to say that if you make this kind of change, you'll get less value out of what you're paying for DART. And so I understand their need and desire to renegotiate that arrangement. And again, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that DART did not engage in those negotiations in good faith. What remedies could they pursue next? They could wait until next year and withdraw, but they've decided not to do that. They could try to go their own way, but they've decided not to do that. And so instead, they bring us legislation that cuts every member city's funding by 25%, whether they want to or not. And this is part of my issue with this legislation, right? Because when proponents of this bill burn the house down, they tend to forget there are also other people burning. For example, it would force DART to violate its bond agreement with shareholders and betray their trust. This would also potentially violate the state's very constitution and bring us into a very costly case that could go up to the Texas Supreme Court. But to me, much more importantly, it would force cities like Rowlett, like Dallas, like Richardson, who is one of those donor cities that pays more than they get back, to change their own arrangement with DART. And that is what I find particularly offensive about this legislation. The right of two equal, responsible parties to enter into an agreement without undue intervention is one of America's founding principles. It is the one thing that binds us together across political ideologies or time. It is what the Founding Fathers called life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is what Abraham Lincoln called the right to pursue one's calling. And it was today in Texas we call freedom of contract and freedom of enterprise. This bill asks us to throw a history and tradition that is 250 years old and cast it aside. And I have to ask, for what? Slightly better sidewalks? I know each and every single one of you is better than this. And please, I ask you to prove me right. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Mr. Little?
Thank you, Speaker. So, Daniel, if you're running a city and you have a choice that you'd like to right-size your participation in DART, but you're denied that opportunity, why would you not just leave it all together next year when you can?
And again, this is my argument here. If this is truly Plano's concern or the concern of any other member city who has this kind of intervention, you know, I personally would be opposed to it. I would personally vote against it in such a withdrawal referendum. But I think it is the right approach to pursue this. Currently, under their agreement with DART, starting in 2026, they can pursue a withdrawal referendum. And if the city of Plano strongly believes that this is the issue they have with DART, again, I would not vote in favor of such a referendum, but I do think it is the right approach for them to at least initiate one.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Of course.
David Yacobian. Did y'all all go to school together and did you figure this out with the names you've got?
Well, thank you, Speaker Craddock, Vice Chair Perez, and committee members. I'm David Yacobian. I'm here to speak against HB 3187 and represent Dallas Area Transit Alliance, or DATA, a grassroots group of transit riders who use Dallas Area Rapid Transit, DART, to get around town and live their lives. I am here representing many who could not drive and who could not make it to Austin to testify. And on their behalf, I respectfully urge you to vote no against this legislation. DART saves me, a little bit about myself, DART saves me a lot of money, avoiding parking costs, saving gas money, and saving myself anxiety and frustration for sitting in traffic for an hour. It helps me be productive. Instead of concentrating on driving, sitting in traffic, I can sit in a train, read a book, catch up on calls and emails, and be more productive during my commute. Now, HB 3187 circumvents the will of the voters. DART is funded by a voter-approved tax, and voters continue to approve this allocation, recognizing the countless benefits to DART services. Last week's hearing delay, there was 115 comments in opposition to this bill. There was only one in support. The principal perpetrator of this bill is Plano City Council. They have not come up with this based on voter input. They have not provided any proposition to their voters. This is a rogue city council attempting to make you rip away transit from their own constituents and to many more outside their own city. I'm confused, we're confused why Plano City Council wants to cut DART right when they're about to get a brand new rail line connecting them directly to DFW International Airport. No doubt a major benefit to their city economy, helping them with their funding problems, and to their benefit to their constituents. This sets a bad precedent, throwing a local issue to the state and making you the bad guys for it. Respectfully, we don't need Houston or Midland dictating how DFW transportation functions or vice versa. Now, something has already been referred to, I want to keep going, is DFW will be hosting the FIFA World Cup in 2026. And DART is critical to our transportation plans for hosting such a large, massive event. Hundreds of thousands of tourists will be needing to use DART's bus bridges to attend games and their rail system to get various events hosted in downtown Dallas and Fair Park. With these severe service cuts that would be imposed by HB 3187, we urge that the Transportation Committee to consider the impacts that would have on FIFA event. You're familiar with Mr. Michael Morris?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Michael Morris is the Transportation Director of our Regional Transportation Council, our RTC. He often talks.
But you're going to need to wind it down.
I apologize. I am wrapping up. Yes, sir. Listen, so the RTC, our region received $500 million transportation grant from FIFA to pay for this. Okay, if we don't meet our obligations, we lose out on that money, and the World Cup brings $5 billion at least in economic activity. You, the state, would miss out on a minimum of $313 million in sales tax revenue, but likely a lot more. Now, remember, I'm wrapping up. I apologize.
This is the end right here.
Okay, I do apologize,
That's
but,
right. Thank you for coming, but we're trying to stay on schedule here.
okay.
I appreciate it.
Did
Thank you.
anyone have questions?
I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? I don't
Okay.
think so. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you. Sonia Brown.
Good evening, Chair Craddock,
All right.
Vice Chair Perez, and esteemed members of the House Transportation Committee. My name is Sonia A. Brown, and I have the honor of serving as the mayor of Glen Heights, Texas, the southernmost member city of DART. It has been a true pleasure working in partnership with Nadine Lee, the president and CEO of DART. I must say that my experience is obviously antithetical to some of my other member cities because her leadership and commitment to regional mobility has been invaluable.
Can I stop you? Are you for or against?
That's my next paragraph.
Okay. Go ahead.
She's been the president and CEO for 4 years. I've been mayor for 3 years, and I can say it's been truly an honor to work with her. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to express my strong opposition to House Bill 3187. I do so not only in my capacity as mayor, but also on behalf of our entire city council, which voted unanimously to pass a resolution in support of fully funding DART. At its core, HB 3187 is a bill that undermines the very principles of local governance. It strips municipalities and regional transit authorities of the ability to make critical transportation decisions that directly affect our residents. City leaders like me know our people, our challenges, and our opportunities. We must retain the authority to plan, fund, and implement transit systems that reflect our unique needs and priorities. With more than 1,100 homes coming online in Glen Heights in the next few years, public transit is not a luxury. It is an essential component of our infrastructure. Systems like DART are arteries of our region. They carry workers to jobs, students to school, and seniors to their medical appointments. Every day, the residents of Glen Heights and surrounding cities rely on these services. If HB 3187 becomes law, that access is threatened. The bill limits our ability to grow and sustain these lifelines. Let me be clear. This is not a transportation issue. This is an economic issue. Public transit fuels development, attracts employers, and supports small businesses. It allows our workforce to move efficiently across our region. By restricting local control and investment in transit, HB 3187 places a chokehold on our economic mobility and regional competitiveness. It's also an issue of balance, fairness, and justice. This bill would disproportionately harm low-income families, historically marginalized communities, and residents with disabilities. These are the very people who most depend on public transit. It cuts the services or barriers to expansion, and it will hit them the hardest. In doing so, we risk deepening disparities that our public policy should be working to eliminate. Losing local control will result in reduced services, especially those services like our coveted GoLink service, or halted expansion in neighborhoods that need it the most. Moreover, public transportation helps reduce traffic congestion and it improves air quality. These benefits affect every Texan. Undermining transit access is not only short-sighted, it's environmentally irresponsible. Let us not forget that HB 3187 creates unfunded challenges. It imposes limits without providing solutions. This bill would destabilize long-term planning efforts when our regions need flexibility and certainty the most. In closing, I want to say this. In times of economic uncertainty, we must maintain the certainty of viable transportation for our residents to get to work, to school, and to the doctor's office. Accessible public transit is a critical part of that certainty. And I also want to let you know that HB 3187 does not have the support of the majority of its member cities. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Randall Bryant.
Good evening, Chair Craddock, members of the committee. My name is Randall Bryant. I'm a board member of DART appointed by the City of Dallas. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my concerns and strong opposition to HB 3187. You've heard testimony today on both sides of this bill from individuals that have decades of transportation experience and service. I, however, have only served on the DART board for 1 year and 2 months. And while my tenure in transportation industry is comparably short, my ability to objectively review the merits of this bill is also not subjectively clouded by a storied history that some present before you today. So I first ask you to consider this bill just as I have, with a sole focus on today. Setting aside any biased opinions of when DART has previously appeared before this committee, for as we know, the composition of this committee, as well as our DART board leadership and staff has all changed. And with that approach of focusing on today, I can tell you with great certainty, as a member also of the DART mediation team, that has spent countless hours over the past few months developing a reasonable and local compromise. Our board has in fact delivered a detailed set of pledges through a board-approved resolution that incorporates a vast majority of the budgetary, service, and operational items requested by the exact members that are pushing for this bill. Our resolution provides short-term monetary relief to the cities that have been labeled as donor cities, according to the recent yet controversial EY report, in a fair distribution equating to the near exact amount requested by the City of Plano in their December 13th, 2024 letter. But our resolution also provides a perpetual structure that guarantees if any city identified as a donor city in the future through a cost allocation analysis shall be granted proportional relief as well. And that is exactly what the EY report should do for us. Be utilized as a tool to help inform our leadership of where improvement is needed, not as a weapon on why we should derail our agency. It doesn't take much convincing by me to you this evening to get you to understand that any amount of reduction in our annual sales tax revenue will obviously decrease the level of services we provide, the jobs we employ, the economic impact we create, nor the connectivity we deliver. But do you believe that DART has actually developed a sustainable plan that acknowledges it earnestly hears the concerns of a minority group of member cities? And do you believe that that plan addresses those concerns while still allowing us the opportunity to best serve the interests of our riders? If you believe that, then there is no need for this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Chair calls Brandon Bullock.
Hello, I'm Brandon. I live in Dallas, and I'm here to talk about why I oppose House Bill 3187. Thank you to everyone on the committee and Chairman Craddock for having the hearing and being up with us here at midnight. Reason that I'm against this bill is because I really like DART. I live right in front of a station in Dallas, and it makes it way easier to access Dallas and the whole Metroplex without having to worry about paying for parking or getting stuck in traffic on I-35 or 75. This bill will force a lot of people like me to take trips on the roads, our very congested roads, when otherwise we wouldn't be adding to traffic. It doesn't make DART better or give cities their own transit. It just weakens our current transit and doesn't propose any alternative solution for member cities. The mayor said he doesn't want Plano to withdraw from DART, but frankly, there's no logical endpoint to that. If you want to stay in DART, you need a DART that functions and works, which is why cutting off DART sales tax income by 25%, which is what this bill would do even after revisions were made, would not just be a policy tweak or a compromise or a change to a structure. It would put DART into a slow death spiral. It is not an exaggeration or hyperbole when we are talking about this to say how that would hurt DART. Like a previous person referred to, Michael Morris Transportation Director of North Central Texas Council of Governments, says that this legislation would jeopardize the federally required mobility plan. DART themselves have already talked about how devastating a 25% cut would be and what is at risk. The TRE that connects Dallas to Fort Worth would be gone, completely gone. The service would be eliminated. It will compromise the implementation of the Silver Line, which connects DFW Airport to Plano directly and brings more value to Plano from DART, which will increase ridership in Plano and give them more value. The answer for these member cities is to improve DART and help member cities grow ridership to get more value, not just cut the service. Doing this would make it harder for working class people who don't own a car to get around to go to work, school, or the doctors. This bill will really hurt people. That's why you're going to see a lot of regular people here today testifying against this, who were here at midnight. Well, a lot of us have to be at work, in just a few hours in Dallas, 3 hours away. But we're here testifying for this. You're not going to see any regular people testifying in support of this bill. It's all people professionally connected to it. That tells you something about what's going on here. That's why we have a whole organization that we put together just as people, the Dallas Area Transit Alliance, where we've been talking to voters, having events, and I'm telling you, I've canvassed both East and West Plano. If you think that Plano voters are down with what the city council and what the mayor is doing, you should put it to the vote. Put it on the ballot. I guarantee you it's not going to happen because the voters are not down with what's about to happen and what the city council is doing. We have to make transit practical and quality for people to use it, and this bill would harm service and reduce ridership. I've lived in this metro area my whole life. I've watched our metroplex explode into the 4th biggest metroplex in the country. Our highways are ginormous. There's apartments being built everywhere. There is no way that we can continue this level of economic development without a quality public transportation system.
Mr. Bullock, you've run out of time.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming. All right. Are there any questions before you go? All right, thank you. Mark Broadhurst.
All right, try to keep this short. Good evening, everybody. Chair Craddock. My name is Mark Broadhurst. I'm here with Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1338. I am strongly against this bill. I'm also a lifelong resident of North Texas. I'm also an employee of Dallas Area Rapid Transit. That employs nearly 2,300 faithful, hardworking employees, my co-workers. I'm here to advocate for those employees. And the DFW region has approximately 8.4 million residents and growing, and DART provides service to these people. This includes elderly people who rely on DART. That's someone's mother, that's someone's grandfather, that might be one of your friends. Some people are unable to drive themselves to their daily activities, including the doctor, to receive critical medical care that could be potentially life-saving. I'm here to advocate for those people as well. This includes low-income residents. Some people, unfortunately, they are unable to afford a vehicle. So they are taxpayers, so therefore they ride mass transit. DART helps to relieve the burden of financial hardship for those taxpayers. I'm here to advocate for those people. This includes people who rely on DART to arrive at work on time, contributing to our successful economy. And mind you, North Texas has one of the most successful economies in the country. So without the stress of the cost of a reliable vehicle and the cost to maintain or register said vehicle, people, they could take that little bit of stress out of their daily life. And let's not forget our young people that use transit to go to school to get their education. I'm here to advocate for these people. This includes residents who choose transit over traffic congestion, attempting to reduce the number of cars on the road and reduce the carbon footprint here in North Texas. I'm here to advocate for those people. HB 3187 will erase the progress of the residents of North Texas over the last 40+ years. And mind you, I'd like to revisit a statement that was made earlier about our antiquated system, our 42-year-old system. That antiquated system got us through the worst pandemic in human history. So must be doing something right. This bill will contribute to the loss of the jobs of some of my coworkers. It will stall, if not set back the economy countless years. It will leave taxpayers in financial ruin. It will leave our senior citizens helpless. I'm here to advocate for full service mass transit in North Texas. This bill would be extremely detrimental to the people, economy, and infrastructure of the entire DFW region. I ask that you vote no on HB 3187. Thank you.
Bless you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Speaker Craddock, committee. My name is Hexel Colorado. I am speaking for myself as a lifelong North Texas resident and Dallas native, testifying in opposition to this bill. The sponsors of this bill may have told you that they are trying to make right this inability to work with DART and find a local resolution. What they're not telling you is that cities like Rowlett at one point had passed a resolution calling for a full for cut to funding. And then after this independent study, they did a full reversal. Now they have a unanimous council supporting DART. They'll say that the sponsors of this bill will say that DART is 19% lower ridership compared to pre-pandemic. What they won't tell you is that according to a national survey, 26%, 1 in 4 paid workdays in the United States were remote. That means percentage-wise, DART earned back more riders than offices brought back more workers. What the sponsors of this bill are not telling you is that more people are riding on the weekends. There are more people riding on Sundays and Saturdays than before the pandemic. DART is more relevant and more necessary now than it's ever been, and these figures that I'm pointing out are not just numbers. Up until 3 years ago, like any good Texas boy, I drove everywhere. And then 3 years ago, I got rid of my car, not for altruistic reasons. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was just trying to pay off my credit card bills, and this was the only way I can get out of paying for car insurance. And 3 years ago, when I drove everywhere, I didn't know anyone who took transit. I didn't know anyone who took the bus or the train to go to work. And then now, 3 years later, all of my friends are people who take the train to ride the bus. Everyone I date are people who take a train or ride the bus. This past Sunday, I took the Green Line train to Carrollton for Easter service, the same city where I was baptized. 2 weeks ago, I went to Plano back-to-back, one night by train for a date night, the other night by bus to Legacy West for a networking event, the same city where I had my first corporate job. Earlier this month, actually just last week, I went to Irving by train and through microtransit, a service that an Irving representative here claimed they don't have. And this is the same city that when I was 18, I took the TRE in a bus for my first internship. So it breaks my heart to see that these cities are pretending that cooperation doesn't work when there are several of their colleague cities making it work. It breaks my heart that these cities who have an important part in my life are trying to destroy this thing that keeps us connected. So I urge you, please vote against this bill. Do not let it get out of committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Harrison Blair.
Chair, committee, morning.
Morning.
I missed a lot of flights to be here, and if it was a train, I would have missed that too, to make sure I tell you I oppose 3187.
Would
Now,
you
I'm
tell
gonna
me
get
your
it.
name?
My name is Harrison Blair, name you
Okay.
called when I came up. And I'll tell you quickly, I'll try to do this in the shortest amount of time
Okay,
possible.
Who do you represent?
I represent me.
Okay, that's
And
good.
I ride DART. I don't get paid by DART. I pay DART $192 every month so I can get where I'm going. And when I'm riding DART and I'm talking to other residents, Chair Craddock, I find out that in conversation, they don't know about this legislation and they don't know, frankly, why the state is trying to take our DART from us. I like to go check on my grandmother. I like to check on my family. I like to go pick up my nieces and nephews. And I like to get some work done so I don't have to drive. And when I talk to regular residents in Plano and Irving at their station, when I take the blue line, when I'm on the orange, when I'm surfing down the red, I'm talking to regular everyday residents, and I can guarantee you this is not what they want. If you love the Texas Miracle and you think Texas is a great place to do business, a great place to raise a family, then this is not the bill that will actually help us do that. And I can guarantee you most residents feel the same way I do. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Here, John, but hold on, we've got to have,
He's registered on behalf of the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce.
you're registered on behalf of the Black Chamber of Commerce.
That's where I work, but I'm also registered. If you look on there, I also registered as an individual because I just ride DART.
He is registered as testifying for himself as the president and CEO of the Dallas
And
Black
Rep,
Chamber of Commerce.
that may mean the form was a little confusing. I just gave you all my details, but I
Okay.
represent me.
What do we need to do to fix it?
Okay, so does he not want to represent the Chamber of Commerce?
Do you not want to represent the Chamber of Commerce?
You can
just
put them
yourself?
down too, and all 900 of our members.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kayan Lee.
Hello, Speaker, members of the committee. My name is Con Lee. I am representing myself in opposition to this bill. I believe that public transportation is a vital element in the DFW region. Without it, people will not be able to get to their jobs, to their doctors, and see their friends and family. Senior citizens will lose their paratransit services that helps them shop for groceries and even go out to vote in the polls. That's free during Election Day. This bill would reduce DART's budget to an extent where drastic service reductions will be necessary, which will cause serious harm to everyone in the region, with increased pollution, traffic, and inaccessibility. My own family would be affected. We use DART to go to events, to the fair, the annual state fair. We go downtown, we have fun. We don't have to worry about parking. We don't have to worry about driving. I also use DART to go to meetings, go to job sites in Dallas. It allows me to avoid I-35 traffic altogether. It's a great system. And I would also wish to talk about my own personal history and relationship with DART. I've been working in the public transportation contracting industry for 15 years. It's my passion. I love seeing my work directly benefit my community and being able to show my children how I was able to change the landscape of the place we call home for the better. I moved to the DFW area as an employee of a Fortune 500 construction company that saw an opportunity with DART and decided to build their public transportation subsidiary headquarters here in DFW. I fell in love with the area, specifically Carrollton, and decided to part ways with this organization and found work with a local locally owned small company that employs 50 to 100 project engineers, project managers, and electricians, depending on the amount of backlog that we have. You could say that, and they also have numerous projects with public transportation. You could say that without DART, I would not be in Texas today, contributing to the economy and being a member of the community. I'm just one example, but there are thousands like me. I requested my employer to provide a letter, this letter, explaining what DART means to them and the opportunities that the organization has given to small businesses in the region. And by defunding this organization by 25% would cause immeasurable harm to everyone. I have distributed that letter to the committee for the record. And there are other companies that saw opportunities with public transit in the area and decided to take route from Fort Worth to Plano, not just the DART member cities. Harming DART will harm these companies, the people who work for these companies, and the people who work to support their operations, vendors, subcontractors, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Are you going to leave us a copy of the letter?
I distributed it before the committee
Okay,
hearing.
great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
very much. Have questions? All right. Mark Enoch? Enoch?
Chair Craddock, thank you.
You can't use the sign.
I'm sorry?
You can't use the sign. You may not use the sign.
Very well, it's in your packet.
Okay.
So it's simply, and the rule would be the same. If it's a blow-up of something in your packet, we could not use it.
Right.
I saw someone else hold some document up here earlier in an earlier hearing. I'll certainly
Well,
obey
I
the chair.
think that was, I remember, I think that was different. That was a map that the members had copies of.
And this is something you have copies of too, but that's okay.
Well, you can't use the sign.
I understand.
All right.
It's a balance sheet, but I will. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Written it 3 times. I'm Mark Enoch. I'm a member of the board. I stand in opposition to this bill. I'm also a former mayor of the city of Rowlett. For 27 years, I've been on this board. I've represented 4 different cities on this board. I am concerned because this is the gravest threat that the regional transit system in North Texas has had in my 27 years, and it is not deserved. I heard Representative Shaheen say that this is the 3rd time this bill has been before you, and somehow DART has acted wrongly and hid from you vital information that you needed and you asked for in the previous 2 sessions. The first session, 4 years ago, the bill had to do with disaggregation. Show us the value of DART given to our cities. Well, there are questions about how you do that. There's a rail line that connects Plano to Richardson to Dallas. Is the value of the rail line simply the concrete and steel inside of Plano? Or does it include the connectivity to the rest of the rail? There are other questions that we had. We gave them 2 reports. They were not satisfactory to Plano. 2 years ago, we came here, the bill was the same thing. Disaggregate, give us a report disaggregation with audit. We did it again. They didn't like it. This time we decided we'll hire E&Y to do it, so our fingerprints are not on it at all. This was a made as directed report by the cities and primarily Plano. And what E&Y found in the value of DART, for example, and I can't show it to you, it's in your packet. You asked Representative Little, when would it be a good financial deal to the city of Carrollton? Carrollton came up and told you they were a donor city by $11 million. In the past 10 years, they have committed $398 million, paid $398 million in. In that same time period, DART and the citizens of the region have put $460 million into the city of Carrollton, not counting operations. Those previous bills were not this bill. This bill takes away 25%, it says, but of our operating capital, it's 34%. We cannot survive this. Moreover, it does affect our bond covenants, because what this bill will do, even in the amended portion, is encumber 25% of the 1 penny that we promised the bondholders would be security for repayment. The bond also promises that if a city withdraws, their full penny is available for repayment on terms of that bond. The new bill, however written, says, you know what, we have a choice of a half a penny out. We can pay it off on a different term. 2 violations of bond covenants which affect all of the bonds. If any Texas city has a bond out there and the legislature can come in and impair the contracts, we're all in trouble. There is a contract with the voters, Representative Little. It's in a Supreme Court case. I'll be glad to share it with you. The voters, you in 452 decided that individual voters had to vote to impose the tax or levy bonds on that tax. We followed 452, and the citizens voted not only those 2 times, but also on pullout elections. City of Plano, Irving, and Carrollton have had 2 pullout elections where the city council wanted to pull out of DART, and the citizens disagreed by 77%. This time, those same cities are coming to you, not saying we want to have a citizen election. They're saying we want to avoid this citizen election. We don't want the citizens to vote. We want you to help the councils solve budgeting problems by avoiding going to the citizens. That's what we object to, among other things.
Okay, thank you. Your time's up. I appreciate
Very
it.
welcome.
In fact, I appreciate you showing us that. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Little?
Mr. Enoch?
Yes, sir.
Do you need all 78 employees in the marketing department of DART?
I can't be specific about that, but yes.
You're on the
because-
board. You can't. Why can't you be specific about it?
Because we have been requested by our cities to increase marketing campaigns in each of those cities. Because specifically in Plano and Carrollton, they have asked us to do more outreach to companies and apartment complexes that have been built near their system because of the light rail that we provided. It's been at the request of the cities. Board chair for the last 10 years, or budget chair, has been a Plano representative. They've been in charge of the 20-year financial plan. They've been in charge, they've sat at the table. The city of Plano has had 30 days for the last 10 years on each budget to comment on the budgets. These budgets are not fat. We have it, it's because the Plano representatives voted for those same people.
Yeah. How many conversations have you had with Plano or Carrollton about trying to negotiate any of this over the last 6 years?
Dozens. In fact, the last ones, they refused to come back. We were suggested at RTC that we continue the mediation, and they refused, both at the meeting and later in a formal a letter from the mayor of Plano. We offered, we wanted to, RTC wanted us to continue meeting. They walked away. It was my way or the highway. They are so confident that this bill will pass, they walked away from local resolution.
What's your last offer?
The last offer is the resolution as we have, which is in the 5% versus 25%, let me explain that. 5% of our sales tax over the next years is about $45 million, which gives back all that the donor cities have requested, which is equivalent to the 25% that Plano requested. $42 million back. That's not the first time DART's done that. We've had a history in the past, without legislation facing us, of sharing and distributing dollars back to the cities for transportation. We did it when we didn't have light rail in time, the LAP funds. We did it with TRIP funds. We did it with PTI. There's $500 million over the years that DART, without threat of legislation, shared back to the cities because it was a fair thing to do and we thought it was the right thing to do for our cities. The DART board has never been my way or the highway. We sit and talk. It's the people who want this bill that were the my way and the highway folks in this room.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Enoch, are you suggesting that if the legislature were to enact HB 3187, that this would somehow trigger the participating cities to be in default of their bond agreements?
It absolutely will.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I hadn't asked in a while.
I know. That's why we moved so fast.
I've been watching from the television.
Chair recognizes Mr. Curry for a 1-minute question and answer.
I had 5 minutes before, and I've been saving. First off, can I clarify what Representative Gomez said? What did you ask? I did not hear you.
Representative Curry, I asked if somehow the legislature enacting this bill 3187, we would trigger participating cities to be in default of their bond agreements.
Okay, and he answered,
In the
absolutely
affirmative.
answered yes on that.
Yes, sir.
How do you know that in the affirmative?
I'm a lawyer. I can read. I know what promises are. That's how I know.
Oh, you want to go there?
I'll be happy to. No, I don't mean to be smart. That's not a cagey. The bond covenants promise a security of 1 penny. If you went to your bank and you promised security of something and then you encumbered part of that security, The bank would not be happy with
So it
you.
would be DART, it would be DART that would be in default?
But under 452, all the cities are responsible for the encumbrances that have been incurred by DART, of course. So the actual answer to the question is DART would be liable, and the cities would be liable up to their percentage under 452
Okay.
for those bond covenants, the
So-
bonds, yes.
So my question to you is, and I've been waiting on somebody to come up. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming up, appreciate you staying. So I'm not trying to make this contentious. I'm trying to understand a little more about this, and I've been waiting
Glad to do it.
to ask a few of these questions.
Sure.
What I really want to know is what does it hurt to do this? Why does it hurt? People are testifying all over the place that I love DART, and believe me, I've been around DART. I've done a lot of business in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've been on DART several times myself over the years. What I don't quite understand is this is not something that would eliminate DART. This doesn't shut down DART. This doesn't shut down the ability for DART to run. It doesn't shut down your ability to create revenue from DART. So why would this hurt you?
So it's not 25%.
Talk to the microphone if you
yes,
don't mind.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It is not a 25% cut, it's a 34% cut, because we first have to pay our debt service. If you subtract the debt service from our revenues, the taxes, that's about $680 million left over, of which now the 25% comes off. That's a 34% cut. I don't know of any company, I don't know of any state agency, I don't know of a charitable organization that could survive with a 34% cut in revenues in 1 year. And those are all of our revenues. Unlike the cities, they have sales tax, they have ad valorem, they have the full penny, by the way, sales tax, ad valorem taxes, hotel taxes, license fees. We have sales tax. So it's basically all of our revenue cut by $222 million next year. Now, I can't give you the specifics, but I can tell you our buses won't run as often. And if our buses don't run as often, we don't get as many riders. If our trains aren't repaired, they fall apart, we can't keep people riding. We lose confidence, we go downhill. We get bond calls, we pay more in
Okay,
interest.
you don't have to yell at me.
I don't mean to. I'm sorry, sir. I
I can
compassionate.
hear you.
I'm sorry. And if the bond rating agencies change it because you all have changed the security, and we go from AA to BBB, that's 75 basis points on $4 billion in debt. Those are the ways that DART is devastated by this bill, which has never been requested before. The request before was a disaggregation report, and we provided that.
Are you planning on issuing more debt?
Depends on the project. We have, as you know, we have the Silver Line going on right now. We have a very favorable federal guaranteed debt. It's about 2.5%. There's still money to be let. We also rotate commercial paper because sometimes it's cheaper to do that, and sometimes we'll turn that into longer-term debt. So the actual answer is we have plans over the next few years to do that, but it has nothing to do with this legislation. It has everything to do with implementing our plans that Plano and its two representatives on the board have consistently voted for.
Do you feel like that y'all have been as transparent as you possibly could have been?
Absolutely. We have, every one of our budgets is sent to the city managers 30 days before we can vote to approve it. Secondly, the DART board chair or budget chair, thank you, has been a Plano representative. Plano has two members. At any time, Plano could have made a motion and had a second automatic to do such things as, let's increase GoLink in Plano. Let's do this. Let's put $25 million aside to pay Plano. That motion was never, to my knowledge, ever made. So they've had power and control over the budget and the chair of the agency for 10 years straight. How can we not be transparent when they're running the meetings at DART? And when DART shares our budget with the cities every year.
And you're from Dallas, is that correct?
I'm from Rowlett.
Rowlett, okay. And so you're one of the board members that's not a Dallas board member, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm just clarifying some of these
Yes, sir.
things to
Sure.
make sure that we're talking on the same level.
Sure.
And so are you paid board member? Are y'all paid?
Oh, yes, sir. $50 a month.
So you make less than we do.
I wasn't going to brag, but, well, here we are.
Okay. All right, thank you for coming, thank you for your testimony.
Any other questions?
Worth bragging about.
Sure appreciate your attention. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair calls Patrick Kennedy.
Oops. Mr. Speaker, let me get to the top here. Honorable members of the committee, my name is Patrick Kennedy. I'm on the Board of Directors from the City of Dallas. I'm here to oppose HB 3187. I'm going to tell you a couple stories about how I joined the board. I joined the board 8 years ago arguing to the Dallas City Council that they should oppose a large capital project. It was the Silver Line from DFW to Plano. I felt it was fiscally irresponsible and that we should be investing instead in operations over more debt service. I lost that vote. It was 11-4. I did not account at the time for the project being a promise to the suburban member cities and the reason they voted to join DART. Me and the other City of Dallas board members who opposed have been steadfast supporters of the regional project ever since. Now that we are delivering it later this year, and it has not been calculated in the EY study yet, even though it's an expensive project, some members are now complaining about a lack of service. I want more service too. We can't deliver with less resources. My first committee assignment, however, then chair from Plano appointed me to an ad hoc governance committee chaired by the other Plano member to oppose a proposal by a Dallas City Council member, the one that appointed me, to claw back sales tax for transit to plug a hole in their pension fund. We opposed it unanimously. I opposed it because I support transit. I suppose they opposed it because it wasn't to plug their budget hole. Our cities have rising costs, but not enough growth. And when we grow, we will need adequate transportation choices. Our member cities' budget issues are due to local anti-growth politics, preventing the organic growth of tax base in order to cover liabilities and the life cycle costs of their infrastructure. As chair of Development Committee, I and the board are committed to leveraging DART to grow the local tax base. The mayor from Carrollton was showing the success of some of our investments. We spent $200 million building the Green Line through there, another $200+ million now building the Silver Line. And we're seeing several market rate projects have moved in, and we're not done. If we had maps, which are in section 5 of your book, you can see that it's still only about half built out. It's essentially a young system with young infrastructure, and it takes time for the land use to grow and adapt to that infrastructure. Hundreds of thousands of riders depend on DART every day. This bill will cripple the North Texas economy. As you can see today, the suburban members are split. Those with resolutions represent only 29% of our service area population. This is not a City of Dallas versus suburb issue. The local resolution will hurt for a few years, but is our best attempt to alleviate concerns of some without permanently crippling the agency. That's one local remedy. The other is a pull-out election in 2026. Either are better options than this bill, which I believe is an affront to civic leaders and great Texans like Mr. Walt Heumann, all of the citizens who phone banked and block walked, all the voters and the business community that turned out to create DART. Please oppose HB 3187. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't have my phone. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Karen
Katrina.
Kitch, Heine King.
Hello, good day. I'm Katrina Heineking. I'm Senior Vice President of Operations for TransDev, and I'm representing TransDev. I'm speaking opposing HB 3187. Thank you for your time today and yesterday. No. TransDev is the largest private provider of public transportation mobility in the United States. We're actually a global company. We're in 19 different countries and have about 400 properties or locations across the U.S. With about 32,000 U.S. employees. This includes some strong roots in the state of Texas. We do some operations in Houston for Metro, airport shuttle service in Houston, Fort Bend, Texas State, and we also operate the paratransit and the microtransit services for DART. In this capacity, representing a large business serving Texas, I wanted to come here today to register our strong opposition to 3187. Millions of people, as you've heard, use DART annually. TransDev interacts with thousands of senior citizens and people with disabilities each and every day through the paratransit program that we operate. And I know without DART in their area, they would lose access to really sometimes life-sustaining services such as dialysis and medical appointments and employment. For example, there'd be adult daycare centers that would no longer at all even be in the service area. So a lot of our vulnerable riders that go to these types of agencies to enrich their quality of life would be really, truly impacted. And that includes some of TransDev's own employees who personally use DART. There's a DART bus stop right outside of our facility where the service would be effective in hampering their ability to report to work. I think a cut in funding to DART would have huge financial consequences to businesses and the economy of the region, as you've heard. So we strongly urge the committee to say no to House Bill 3187. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jay Langhurst.
Thank you, Speaker Craddock and Vice Chair and committee members. My name is Jay Langhurst. I'm representing myself. I'm opposing HB 3187. I will try to make this short because it's very early in the morning. And the gift of time is something we can all receive. I hope it's also something that you can give to the riders of DART. Because even with the 5% cut, which DART has already agreed to, for example, my commute is increasing by 50% because my second bus is being canceled, right? So as opposed to representations, which we've already heard in the layout of the bill, that there would be no harm to DART or there'd be no disruption. Disruption has already begun. So I use DART to get to work. I use it because it is less stressful, because it's easier, it's more convenient. It allows me to have a flexible schedule. I can go to a show after work. I can do the types of things that people who might need to feed the meter or might need to fight traffic don't do, and I don't see all my coworkers doing those things. So I think it does contribute in a unique way, in a beneficial way, that if we don't have this service, and with a 25% cut, I don't know that we will have this service, would be a problem. I do think this would be better left to the cities to resolve. And I think when you take 30% of the population, which is the representation of those cities that are complaining about this, and you force this onto the board, those board is going to have to continue on. You can't handhold them for the rest of time, right? So I think they do need to resolve this. I understand there are pressures. They need to work out things themselves. It's not an easy process, as I've seen, but I think trying to make this short-term dramatic move could also harm their ability to lead going forward, which they will need to do in 2030 when they take over as population increases and changes happen. So I think in summary, I understand it's a difficult problem. I understand you don't have an easy job and it's late at night and early in the morning, but I hope you can find a way through this without harming the region. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to just take a guess at this name. Shy, Ham, Game, Shram.
Good morning. Thank you to Chairman Craddock and the Transportation Committee. My name is Shamsundar Ganeshram, and I am representing myself as a member of the Dallas Area Transit Alliance, which we are not affiliated with any external alliances or unions. I'd also like to state that no other...
Would you just pull the microphone down a little bit?
Sorry.
Great.
I would also like to state that no other person testifying against the bill tonight is... that no other person testifying against the bill tonight is not paid, and that I found the prior remark to be rude, as it was false.
Okay.
I'm an 8th grader in Frisco, Texas, zip code 75035. I am speaking in opposition to House Bill 3187. I'm a DART rider myself, using bus routes 239 to 254, which is one route set to be eliminated, and light rail lines red, orange, and green from Plano and Carrollton. I am here not only because I care about DART, but also because I have a friend who is visually impaired, and due to that, he deeply relies on DART's service. He unfortunately couldn't make it to Austin today. The passing of the bill would result in the worsening of not only his life, but many others like him who are disabled and rely on DART's service. This bill would result in many disruptions to transportation in general in the region. The 25% budget cut on DART, which this bill targets, would result in longer wait times between bus and rail, 18 bus routes discontinued, and most likely the Trinity Railway Express, the commuter line owned by DART and Trinity Metro that travels between Fort Worth and Dallas, being discontinued. Security, as a result of this, over 150,000 people per day, which is still a growing statistic according to DART scorecard, will experience many issues with traveling in the region with public transportation. This would also result in security cuts and more than likely additional issues to come. Furthermore, on security cuts, they are a major concern for especially me and many others, as we need DART to stay safe. And in order for that, we need police and security to be highly present. I would also like to go over a few arguments that were made in support of this bill. One argument is that DART isn't cooperative with the member cities. However, as Rowlett showed, they initially supported the 25% budget cuts. Afterwards, DART showed statistics of how much Rowlett benefited off of DART, especially economically, and also worked together with Rowlett, addressing each concern. This caused them to repeal their original resolution, and they instead supported full funding. Second is that the stations, trains, and buses are empty. However, that is simply not true, especially as a DART rider myself. I see many people waiting at stations for the trains and also at transfer centers to catch the bus. And even at the stations and the transfer centers that are said to have lower ridership, quote unquote. Even on the buses, they're also very well filled, and also on the trains. Another is that another jumping back to Rowlett is that it's proved to be a local issue. Respectfully, cities like Lubbock and Houston and Austin shouldn't have the fate on Dallas's transit. Shouldn't decide the fate on Dallas's transit system, and vice versa. Lastly, is that cities aren't benefiting from DART, but jumping back to Rowlett's case, that has also been proven wrong, showing that member cities are in fact benefiting from DART in many ways. Please oppose House Bill 3187. Thank you.
Thank you, and you did a great job in your time.
Thank you. I also have
What? Oh. Mr. Patterson has a question. If you get back behind the...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the dad of an 8th grader, I just want to say you did a great job, and your family's got to be super proud of you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to speak, but I just want to just tell you how inspired I am by your passion, and thank you for staying here so late with us to give your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll get to bed.
What's a picture? Mr. Craddock, I do have one question.
Get behind the microphone. You got to get behind the microphone.
I was not expecting to stay here this late. And,
Well, we weren't either, so...
This may be the first time you ever hear this question, but I'm requesting a school note to excuse my absence.
We'll get that done right away. Go right over there and she'll get that done.
Motion to issue school note.
I have one question. Why didn't you sit in a chair? Why were you sitting on the floor?
On the floor?
Weren't you sitting?
He was trying to walk out.
No, I was over there.
Oh, I see. Okay. You bet. We'll do the note.
I truly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. Gabriel Hosser. Gabriel Hosser. She hadn't got anything to write.
Gabriel,
I
it's
call-
okay, she's got the registration. Gabriel Hosser, try it one more time.
Gabriel Hosser. Okay, that's it.
Walter Human.
Walter Human.
It's a hard act to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chair and committee members, thank you so much for your public service from before 8 o'clock this morning until about 1 o'clock in the evening. That is impressive. My name is Walt Human. I'm a Dallas business executive, community volunteer, and I'm a lifelong resident of Dallas. I founded and served as chair of the Transportation Task Force, which was composed of volunteers, and we helped conduct the successful campaign that created DART in 1983. I urge you to defeat the bill 3187 for one primary reason. It violates the covenant that we made with the people, and secondly, it adversely affects the bonds that they have. Citizens voted to create the first regional multi-modal transportation system in the South and the Southwest. If you approve this bill, everything that we've worked so hard for will be lost. And no business, in my judgment, or nonprofit can sustain a 25% hit in its revenue. So the Transportation Task Force sought to collect information on the kind of transportation system, a regional system that the citizens wanted and what they were willing to pay for that. And we used 4 sources: individual cities like mayors, business people, and grassroots people in each of the suburbs. And that included Mayor Florence Shapiro and David McCall of Plano, Mayor Hausman in University Park, Liddy Taylor, Mayor of Carrollton, and many others. We recruited a diverse group of employers and employees to get the employee perspective on what you wanted in a transportation system. And then we engaged a technical resource group of the AIA and the professional engineers to help opine and stimulate thought. And finally, and most important, we held a large number of community meetings throughout the entire area, finding what they wanted in the system and what they were willing to pay for it. We heard from everyone, and basically, many people wanted a world-class transit system. Others said, we want to combat highway gridlock. Others sought jobs because they didn't have a car and they needed an effective means to move around. And one of the most poignant visits we ever had was an evening that I met with a large number of disabled citizens, pleading for a means other than the back of a pickup truck to travel to employment, medical services, and friends. All needed public transportation. I've been honored by the title, the father of DART, but in fact we had 1,000 moms and dads of this DART program. They all helped join together to get that input and tried to feed back to the interim board that selected the transit plan and how much you would pay for it. This is a key. Never once was there any mention by member cities and its citizens asking for a quid pro quo for the money that they are providing as a subsidy. Of course, member cities would want adequate transportation and transit assets, but here's the key. The prime objective, we were working together to build a dream that basically supported regional transit to create a viable long-term alternative to growing, costly highway congestion, dedicated to the region and not to the individual cities. Finally, on August 13th, we got the great news from the polls, landslide victory for regional public transportation in the South and Southwest. And I just want to key on a few voting statistics. Highland Park, 77% voted. University Park, 76. Plano, 72%. Richardson, 71. Addison, 70%. Carrollton, 69. Garland, 65. That's not just squeaking by. That is a strong endorsement. So in summary, I encourage you, please defeat 3187. Why? It violates the covenants that we had with the voters and the bondholders. Well, what do you say to the people if you do approve this, that we're going to be spending that 25% that we all float? And I'm reading here from the bill itself. And what this money is going to be used for is trails, highways, sidewalks, local and arterial streets, installing street lights, traffic control, and drainage. That is not a regional transportation system. And so, in summary, DART is 40 years old. It's run a clean operation and has won national awards. Its rail system is nearly built out, but the next 40 years will be pivotal and impose increased capital and operating costs. Federal funding is not going to pay us out in the future. So basically, DART's current debt has got to be serviced. Finally, this is a pivotal time for DART and for this community in this area. Please let the DART board and the individual cities work this out. In my experience in business and in community affairs, there's always a win-win solution if you dig deep enough. Always a win-win solution. Otherwise, if DART finances will be so impeded that the residents won't have a viable regional transportation system in the future, and equally bad, the promises that we made will be undercut and undermined. Please don't dismantle DART. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you
Glad to
for what
answer
you've
any
done.
questions, sir.
Thank you for what you've done for your community.
Thank you.
Courtney Hunter.
Good evening,
Evening.
or morning, I guess I should say. My name is Courtney Hunter. I am representing myself in opposition to this bill. I just want to take a second to say thank you all so much for displaying all of this patience today. And also thank you to all of at least 30 other data members watching online who have been watching online this whole time. Like I said, my name is Courtney Hunter. I'm a Dallas resident. I live in downtown, and I'm one of the many Dallasites that live without a car. That might be surprising, but I was born in Dallas, and I've lived in DFW my whole life. I'm Texan through and through, I promise. So since November of 2000, we have lost at least one person each day on Texas roads, resulting in more than 87,000 deaths. As I'm sure y'all are very aware, every single number represents someone's whole world. My dad was one of them. We were your typical suburban Christian family, living on the cul-de-sac. When we lost him, all of that went away. Everything fell apart, and I was 12. I think that's probably where my disillusionment began. Young people are growing more and more convinced that cars don't really offer the freedom that they promised. Automobiles are actually the most dangerous form of transportation and the least sustainable. Car culture has driven people further apart, killing our access to close-knit community. In fact, a survey from the National Association of Realtors found that 92% of Gen Z respondents are willing to spend more on housing in walkable neighborhoods, and 85% of millennials would say the same. But you don't need me to give you the statistics. There are plenty of other people in this room who are much more equipped to give you the data. I'm here because I live to love God and love people, and this bill would ultimately hurt me and my neighbors. Many DART users choose public transportation because we want to be good stewards of our finances, our health, our time, and our environment. However, many users have no alternative option for transportation, including many of us that have been diagnosed with a disability. God called his people to specifically care for the least of these, the poor, the sick, the sojourner, the fatherless, the widow, and he explicitly warned those who oppress them. This bill would disproportionately harm the most vulnerable in our community and leave many without access to jobs or health care. Texas has the resources. In the Texas Triangle, we have 4 of the largest cities in the U.S. If we invest in sustainable transportation freedom in and between these cities, we can protect our suburban and rural communities while being the top choice for young professionals to settle down and call home for good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and thank you for your words. We appreciate it. Thank you. Are
I
there any
also am not
quest-
paid, by the way.
Are-
I
are-
took PTO for this.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Donnie Jolly. This is the last one. Is this it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Donnie Jolly, and I oppose this bill. I'm the president and business agent in Local 1338. I'm speaking on behalf of the union members that I represent at DART and also DART employees. I urge you to oppose HB 3187. Its passage would have devastating consequences for DART, Dallas, and surrounding communities. DART is the largest transit agency in Texas, serving 13 cities, over 55 million passengers annually. If this bill goes forward, it will lead to severe job losses, service cuts, negative affecting livelihoods, and accessibility of public transportation. DART estimates that nearly 1,000 employees will be affected by this bill, 3187, if it passes. The economic repercussions and these cuts will extend far beyond our city, but surrounding cities as well. Transit creates opportunities. Every $1 invested in public transportation generates $5 in economic returns. As you know, Dallas is gearing up for the 2026 World Cup, which projects over $2 to $7.5 billion. Over 3,000 jobs will be created. Not only that, but the estimated 3.4 million people will attend this event. The spotlight would be on North Texas, and our transit system would be essential in ensuring the success of this global event. Discussions are already underway with agencies statewide to coordinate transportation efforts. Dallas is a thriving, growing city ranking 9th in the U.S., and our transit system infrastructure has been key part of this success over 40 years. This bill threatens to derail progress, weaken our economy, and disrupt lives of citizens who openly make transit their daily need on a day-to-day basis. When we cut service, we cut transit revenues, which only leads to more cuts. No one wins if this legislation passes. Voters authorized DART funding, and we urge you to respect the will of the people and stand with us opposing this bill. Dallas deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wait a minute, is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Jolly, I just want to say thank you so much for your commitment to your community and to your members.
Thank you. I
Appreciate your
appreciate it.
testimony.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You want to say something? I thought somebody else had their. Okay. I'm not going to ask if there's anybody else.
Okay, Representative Shaheen to close.
Chair recognizes Representative Shaheen to close. No?
I bet you guys want the
Yes
short
or
version of
no?
my closing.
You don't have to.
Thank you for your time tonight. I know it's late. I know, quite frankly, I think some of you don't feel that well. Let me just respond to a couple of items, and then I'll close. There's been some mentions that Plano could simply address this through their board representation and all that. Let's make sure we understand. Plano has 1.5 board members out of a 13 member board. I think we know how that goes. The offers to address the financial imbalances and the massive payments that these cities are paying, that was a temporary fix. It doesn't fix this solution long-term. It was a temporary offer. And then there was commentary made about the parties trying to work over the last several months to try to address this issue. These cities have been trying to work something with DART for the past 6 years to no avail. Let me just say this. A lot of the people that you heard from tonight that represented DART, they met with me and Terry Canales 6 years ago, 4 years ago, made promises to us, and they didn't come through with those promises. And that's why we need this bill. I'll wrap up with this. I told you that I filed a piece of legislation, the 87th legislature, to force DART to come up with this study. Again, just asking what the expenditures were per city. And one of their board members came and testified against the bill. And in that meeting, he looked the committee chairman in the face and he said, I have a commitment to you that we're going to deliver this study to show the cities what the imbalance is. And they broke that promise. Well, that same board member came the next session and testified for my piece of legislation. So with that, members, I know it's late. I close and am available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, members.
Just a minute. You know what? If y'all wait just a minute, if you'll come up here, we've got something for you. We're going to give him a flag flown over the Capitol. No, we want him. We're not you. Is it ready?
It's not here yet, but she's coming down with it right now. Over here in just a second.
So, we're going to give you your note, okay? But the committee's got it. We had a flag flown over the Capitol a while ago for you, and we're going to authorize it. Sign it and certify that it was flown over the Capitol in your name and your honor, and we're going to give you that in just a minute if they're on the way bringing it up here. You can take that home with you. Yeah. Hope you come back to the representative someday. It'd be great for the. I don't think I'll still be here, although I've been here a long time. So.
He might be.
Yeah.
He still might be, trust me.
Anyway, thank you for coming, and I know it was a hard trip, but we appreciate you coming. And if you'll wait just a minute, they'll bring it for you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You
have to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
We don't need
Right there.
Is there any business left? Chair hears none. That concludes our business for today. If there's no objection, the committee will stand adjourned, subject to the call of the chair. The chair hears no objection. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Teamwork.